we can really begin to take a deep dive into population now. Demography is a term we use to describe the study of population. When people talk about population on this planet, frequently one of the first things that people begin to speak about is something called overpopulation. Overpopulation is actually more complicated than what most people think. Overpopulation occurs when the number of people in an area exceeds the capacity of the land or the environment to support them. So this is more area specific than it is across the entire planet. And in order really to grasp overpopulation, we have to add in another term, which is carrying capacity. Carrying capacity means this. This is the ability of the land to support a population with agriculture. So in other words, can the population in a particular area be supported by its own local resources? You might say, well, because of international trade, almost any place can support a population because we can just trade amongst each other. While this is true, when we're talking about overpopulation, this is really about in a particular area, if a group of people in that area or the entirety of the population in that area had to subsist on what they have in that area, would they be able to make it? Or would there be too many of them? That's really what overpopulation is about. The term ecumene, when we talk about a cultural geographical standpoint on this term, means this. This is the permanently inhabited portion of the Earth's surface. So in other words, where people live. And there are commonalities amongst the four largest concentrations of people on Earth. Here's what they are. People tend to live in areas that have low elevation, so in other words, not up in the mountains. Flat areas, areas with fertile soil, places with mild climates, and overwhelmingly in the northern hemisphere. Now, of course, these things are going to overlap. Take a look at this map. It's actually made up of a bunch of tiny red dots. So the darker the red, the greater the concentration of people. Take a look at it and see if you can see where people are concentrated on the planet. Because it's not everywhere, obviously. We are not evenly spread across the surface of this planet. These are the four main concentrations. East Asia. East Asia really is composed of China, Japan, and the Koreas. This accounts for about 1/4 of the world's population, right there in that one area. South Asia, which is centered on India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, accounts for about 1/5 of the population of the planet, with India itself accounting for about, say 3/4 of that entirety from that area. Europe, which means Western Europe, Eastern Europe, and the western part of Russia. This is about 1/8 of the world's population, but it's spread amongst 4 countries and a fairly large area, at least in an east to west spread. Southeast Asia, which has over 1/2 of a billion people. Now, this is mostly, or half of which is in Indonesia, let's say, but it includes the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, Myanmar. All of those places kind of go into this group that is number 4, Southeast Asia. But there are other concentrations as well, as you can see. Northeastern North America accounts for about 2% of the world's population. Western Africa, Mesoamerica, which is Mexico and Central America. Eastern Africa, not all of it, but in a couple of areas. Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda. Eastern South America, but really kind of in the coastal zone of Eastern South America. The 7 largest populations on this planet make up half the world's population. 7 countries. China, India, the United States, Indonesia, Pakistan, Brazil, and Nigeria. That's half of the world's population. So where are people not located? Well, there's also a pattern to this. Here's what that pattern is. They're not located in areas that are too wet, too dry, too cold, or too high. Kind of rhymes. Too wet, too dry, too cold, too high. Too wet. Well, that runs right across the middle of the planet. It's kind of the center of the tropical zone. There's a lot of precipitation there because of rising air. So the Amazon, the Congo, and then parts of those same islands in Southeast Asia. Just north and south of that band, that's where you find the primary deserts on this planet. Those are the areas that tend to be too dry to support large populations. And then very far north and very far south, of course, it's too cold. So there are very few people living very far north and very far south in terms of latitude. And then in very high areas, which you can see, there's more than 3 of these, but these are the 3 major ones, which would be part of the western part of North America, the western part of South America where the Andes are at, so the Rockies and the Andes, and then where the Himalayas and the Tibetan Plateau are at just north of India. Those are the main areas that are too high. And as I said, there are overlaps in all of these.